All right, now we've got ourselves a World Series.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever they call it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, but the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTube page. And when you're here, make sure to put that hashtag, where is it? It's Everyday Sully. So I know you are posting stuff. It helps us find it. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. And let's get down to the trivia question that I put out yesterday, which was, who started the first Game 7 in Blue Jays history? The first Game 7 in Blue Jays history. A couple of you got it right. But I'm going to put this one on because he said the most on there. Frank Rollo said Dave Stieb versus Brett Saberhagen. That's right, Dave Stieb, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame, versus Brett Saberhagen, who won 2 Cy Young Awards and had a wonderful, wonderful career. His peak was as high as you can get. He had a bunch of injuries, had a rebound with the Red Sox towards the end of his career. But they started Game 7 of the 1985 ALCS. What a matchup that was. He said, the first year I fell in love with the Blue Jays and was left heartbroken after we blew a 3-1 series lead. That is absolutely correct. It was Dave Stieb. This is the game today that ended about maybe an hour or so ago. I was walking my dog, Eleanor, listening to the game. And, full disclosure, some of you have gotten on me for showing bias. One listener got me on said I had bias because I wanted a series to go 7 games. He said that shows a bias. No, it doesn't. It shows I want to see some good baseball. Some people just want to be angry. I don't make any bones that I was indeed pulling for Seattle because they're a team that has never won the pennant. And they still are a team that have never won the pennant. They got to within 8 outs of the pennant. But do you know what? I've said it before and I've said it again, I have been underestimating the Toronto Blue Jays all year and all postseason. And folks, give them credit. They did it. And they did something. They did what Milwaukee couldn't do. And they had the same problem. They were facing the same issue. And that is they lost the first 2 games at home. They looked dead from the neck up in the first 2 games. Seattle had complete and total control of the series. And what Milwaukee didn't do is what Toronto did do. And that is they dusted themselves off, took advantage of that travel day, and figured out how the heck to win this thing. In fact, they darn nearly won it in 6. Because if they had the rally game-tying home run and then the grand slam in Game 5 that won the game for Seattle. But, and give the Mariners credit, they sent it back, needed to win 1 and 2, and they did neither. Now, Game 6, we talked about it yesterday, they just played sloppy baseball. The Mariners played sloppy baseball. But today was just a damn good game. And it's one of those games that as it was going on, there was the Mariners jumped out in front early. There was that weird play of the double play. Did he jump up to get hit by the ball or not? Naylor was trying to get out of the way of the ball, but was he getting in the way of the ball? I don't know, and neither do you. They pulled Kirby after 4 innings. Don't really have a problem with that. I don't, because they put themselves in a position where they were in the 7th inning, where the combination of Kirby and Wu had held the Toronto Blue Jays to 1 run over 6 innings. And they tried to push Wu for 1 more inning. And I actually don't have a problem with that because Wu was pitching pretty well. But then they went to Pizzardo 1 time too many. The interesting thing about the game is that up until that point, really up until that point in the 7th inning, the Rogers Center was dead, and so was Skydome. And it really just felt like Seattle had control of the game. And as I'm walking my dog, Eleanor, I'm kind of figuring out what the hell I'm going to say in the podcast. And it was like the Blue Jays seem to be able to score runs at will in their victories against New York and in the 2 games they won in Seattle. And for some reason, they just couldn't get the big bat on the ball in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th innings. And the big guys like Raleigh and Rodriguez got the hits. They got the homers when they needed. And Naylor drove in one himself. He had a terrific series. And then when those 2 runners were on, 2 on and 1 out, and Bizzardo pitching, even then, I felt like the Mariners were in control. And this is one of the great beautiful parts of baseball, how quickly things can turn. I'm trying to think about moments where a series just completely, the narrative of the story of the series just flipped like that. And 2 ones that immediately came to mind were Jim Leyritz in the 1996 World Series, where they looked like the Yankees were going to fall 3-1, and then he hit the 3-run home run to tie the game. And then there was the home run in by Spezio in the 2002 World Series when the Giants were in control. They're up 5-0 in a World Series clinching game, and the Spezio home run didn't tie the game, didn't put them ahead. They didn't even make it a 1-run game, but suddenly a 5-0 game became a 5-3 game, and every Giant fan got nervous. And my dad, may he rest in peace, who went on to see the Giants win 3 World Series after that, still was bitter about that year. And that was that Springer home run. The Springer home run was one of the great turnaround home runs we may ever see. Because up until that point, it was the Mariners. And it looked like the Mariners were going to go to the World Series. After that home run was hit, I didn't think the game was over because I knew that, the chances of getting Raleigh and Rodriguez another at-bat was there. But, oh boy, you went from the Mariners being 8 outs away from the first ever trip to the World Series to the Blue Jays 6 outs away. And here's what you've got to do. You have to give all the credit in the world to the Blue Jays. They turned the series around as down 0-2. They flipped that script. They flipped the script of this series around. And they did so by getting, Clement got another hit today. Barger got another hit today. They got, Jimenez got the production when they needed to. Kind of Falefa got a hit when they needed to. And, of course, Vladdy Jr., who didn't homer today, but he got his ALCS MVP. Springer, who they thought, is he going to play? Is he going to play? Oh, he's going to play. Oh, he's going to play. In fact, he's going to get one of the biggest home runs in Blue Jay history. Obviously not the biggest. His name's not Joe Carter. But the Toronto Blue Jays, I said it after they beat the Yankees, and I'm saying it now, they're going to the World Series. It's time to give them the credit that they deserve. They were the best team in the American League. And you know what? With all the expanded playoffs and all of this and all of that, I said it's hard to predict the American League. It's going to be whatever team gets on the best roll. There's something nice about the team that had the best record in the American League. I know they tied with the Yankees, but they had the tiebreaker. Went on to go to the World Series. It wasn't an 80-win team. It wasn't a team that snuck in on the final wild card bid and then had a good couple of weeks. The team that had the best record in the American League for the regular season and went on to defeat the Yankees and defeat the other team that had the bye, and they're going to the World Series. And do you know what? Give them the respect they deserve. They're a legit pennant winner. Okay, let's hear from our friends over at Monarch Money. Let's face it. Some of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, easy to lose track. And that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It's helped me organize my account, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. And I love that you can review everything, see shared goals, and make better financial decisions with my partner. Now, Monarch, they have visual dashboards and smart tools that make it so much easier to understand where your money is going and how to make it work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the crack. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Hey, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun and simple way to add more excitement to football. You can just pick more or less on player projection, like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley's rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. It's really fast. You can make your lineup in under a minute, and PrizePicks has just added stacks. So if you want to ride with a player, you can select their pass yard, rush yard, touchdowns, all in one lineup. It's so much fun to follow other players in the app and copy their lineups with just one click. And there is a new injury reboot feature. If your player leaves early and doesn't return, it's not going to count against you. And there's a special max discount promotion live on the board right now. For the Golden State Warriors versus the LA Lakers game on October 21st, Steph Curry is discounted to only needed more than half a point to win. Mix and match players with football, basketball, and baseball to build your dream lineup today. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, do you know what? It's good to be right. Now, we do have to do the requiem for the Seattle Mariners. Obviously, they had a wonderful year. Obviously, they got as close to the World Series as they've ever gotten in their entire career, in their entire history, I meant to say. Naylor had great hits. Rodriguez had some great moments. Raleigh got some big home runs. They just came up a game short. And they had two heart-pounding do-or-die games they had to play. The extra inning finale against the Detroit Tigers, and this, for Mariners fan, must be an absolutely gut-wrenching Game 7. The two games they lost on the road, it was a gut punch. There's a lot to build on here. There's a lot to hope, and seeing them as the team to beat in 2026. But, when you think about so many great Mariner teams, this really did look like the team that was going to do what Griffey and A-Rod and Edgar and Randy Johnson and Jamie Moyer and Jay Buhner and Ichiro and King Felix just could not do. But they came up just short. And there we go. Which brings us back to Toronto, who are now going to face the Los Angeles Dodgers. I got a couple of texts from some people who are saying who are not rooting for the Dodgers. Well, I understand most people are not rooting for the Dodgers. I'm rooting for a 7-game series because I think there's greatness on both teams. I don't think that's a bias I'm having. I want to see a great World Series. And I'm neither a Blue Jay fan nor a Dodger fan. And I hate neither the Blue Jays nor the Dodgers. I don't hate the Dodgers. I live in LA County. It's fun to see the local team doing well. And I've been here when they weren't doing well. Believe it or not, folks, there was a time where the Dodgers weren't that good. And it was really dangerous going to the parking lot there. There's a bunch of things to really be, to be happy about, to cheer if you're a baseball fan. But no bigger thing than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, his father, who was one of my favorite players in all of baseball, did go to the World Series. Vladdy Sr. did play in the World Series with the Texas Rangers against the San Francisco Giants in what was it? It was the first. It was in 2010. That's right. And so he did get to there, but Vladdy Sr. is a unique figure in baseball history in Canada. There's a reason why Vladdy Jr. is a native of Montreal. He's not a native of the Dominican Republic. He's a native of Montreal. If you're playing Immaculate Grid and you're trying to find, and if Canadian born is one of the grids, guess what? Throw in Vladdy Jr. for that. But Vladdy Sr., who played from 1996, so he was not part of the famous 1994 team. But from 1996 to 2003, he was a Montreal Expo. Now, he wasn't there for the final year. He left via free agency and signed with the Angels and had some of his best years, including his MVP year with the Angels. But his first 8 years, really, it was 7+ years he spent with the Expos. And he was brilliant with the Expos. You like batting average, he had a high batting average. You like OPS, his OPS was often in the 900s, sometimes in the thousands. You like hits, he led the league in hits. You know, you like stolen bases, he would steal 40. You like home runs, his home runs would be in the 30s or 40s. And if you like defense, he had an absolute, one of the great cannons. And he was the last superstar in Montreal. He was the last great Expo. And there's still a lot of bitterness about the fact that the Expos don't play there anymore. And having Vladdy Jr. taking a Canadian team to the World Series, there's something almost fitting about that. There's something almost poetically just about that. And it reminds me of another happy ending to for the lack of a better term, a regional heartbreak. In 1957, the Dodgers and the Giants both left New York City. The Dodgers left Brooklyn, and the Giants left the Polo Grounds in Harlem to come out here to California. Now, the people here in Los Angeles love the Dodgers. And when I go back up and see my mom in the Bay Area, they love their Giants. But for years and years, they were fixtures of New York. My father was a New York Giant fan, loved his Willie Mays, loved his Monty Irvin. And the heartbreak of Brooklyn, that was the heartbeat of the city of Brooklyn, were the Dodgers. Ripped like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. The Mets were formed a few years after that, when baseball was forced to expand or had to face a new league. And when the Mets were formed, they were meant to be the unifying team of the lost Dodger and Giant fan bases. That's why their NY was the Giants NY, but the color were the Dodger colors. And they were terrible, but they were the team that those fans could embrace. And at the end of the decade, just 12 years after the Dodgers and Giants left, the Mets won the World Series, creating a feel-good moment for those fans who had their hearts ripped out. Well, there may never be a complete recovery of the heartbreak of Montreal, but for Canadian fans to see a Canadian team led by the son of the last great Expo hero, to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. lead a Canadian team to the World Series, there is something perfect about that. And he wasn't just a bystander. He was the freaking MVP. He's had an unbelievable postseason. And if you don't believe me, ask New York. If you don't believe them, ask Seattle. My friend Nicole Corcolis, who's a fantastic comedian, I've known her for a long time, a great friend of mine for decades, is a rabid Yankee fan and wants to see the Dodgers lose, as most of the country does. And she texted me and said, are the Dodgers going to sweep them? And I said, no. The Blue Jays can hit with anyone. And I said, as she's a huge Yankee fan, you of all people should remember Vladimir Guerrero can hit any pitching. They have home field advantage. You know, any talk of, this is going to be a mismatch. They have home field advantage. Yes, so do the Brewers. But this Blue Jay team has, for a team that has the best record in the American League, has been underestimated this whole postseason. They will have the home field advantage in every single round they play, and they're still being looked on as like some massive underdogs by some people. Imagine what a happy ending it will be for Canadian fans to see the first championship, the first World Series championship in Toronto since the Joe Carter home run, and that be led by the son of the last great Montreal hero. There's something poetic about that. And it's funny, baseball has had many moments of championships you don't expect and great poetry. Is that going to happen now? Let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, boom, you've unlocked $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, no matter how you do your bets, whether you build parlays, you do the player props, or if you follow the live lines during the game, FanDuel has you covered. It makes watching football even more exciting. We've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan like I am or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything, and we've heard them all before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometime. The ball game's on. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED, designed to stop making excuses and helping you start making your moves. Rugiet makes it really simple to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor with 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, it's simple, and it's private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Now, visit rugiet.com/YAK and get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/YAK. And don't forget to use our code Locked On MLB so they know that we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making your moves. By the way, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, check out the all new Locked On MLB game night, where you get regional experts giving you national coverage and all the Locked On experts going through the events of the league and of Major League Baseball. Follow it right here on the Locked On MLB feed, wherever you get your podcasts, or right here on YouTube. Hey, let's take a look at a couple of the things that people wrote to me. This one says, looks like the LA Dodgers, this is from Steven Schwartz, SHWARTS. Looks like the LA Dodgers will win the World Series for the second straight year. Don't think Toronto or Seattle can beat them. What do you think, Sully? I think anyone can beat anybody. Hell, I saw the Dodgers of 1988 beat the Oakland A's, and they were completely overmatched. I've seen teams that look overmatched on paper win it all. The 2006 St. Louis Cardinals did not look like they were the team to beat, and yet they won it all. The Giants in 2010 first of all, they looked like they were seriously, the going to be behind Philadelphia. Philadelphia were the best team in baseball, and then they beat them, and then they took out the Texas Rangers. But when they played the Detroit Tigers in 2012, well, they had to face Justin Verlander game one, and Lincecum had a down year, and they had to throw Barry Zito game one. And what happened? The Giants swept them. I saw the Reds sweep the A's in 1990. I've seen plenty of upsets, including the 2011 St. Louis Cardinals, who backed into the postseason and danced at the end of the playoffs. I saw the Giants in 2014 win it all. You know, there are teams that the Nationals in 2019 had no business being on the field with the Dodgers, had no business being on the field with the Astros. And on paper, that was a complete mismatch. It happens. It happened with the Braves in 2021. It sometimes happens. And when it does, you sit there in awe, and everyone says, how could this have happened? And we're not talking about a great upset like that. We're talking about the Dodgers don't have home field advantage. And I absolutely believe the Blue Jays can hit with anybody. Now, am I making my pick yet? No. We have a squad show coming on tomorrow. We're all going to be talking about the ALCS. And I need a little bit of time to make my official World Series pick. And when I do, go to FanDuel and bet the exact opposite, because I'm always wrong. But here's the other thing, and I think this is worth noting. This World Series is unique. There's something that's going to happen in this World Series that has never happened before, ever. Not one single World Series. And no social media dash 1974 reminds us all of that. Almost there for Donnie Baseball. For the first time ever, a World Series will involve Don Mattingly. One of the great stars of the 80s, had one of the worst bits of luck with the New York Yankees, has never participated in a World Series, not as a player, not as a coach, and not as a manager. And he just missed it on both ends. He just missed it 3 times with the Yankees and once with Los Angeles. And now with Toronto, the man who won the MVP in '85 and Manager of the Year a few years ago, who is a coach for the Toronto Blue Jays, will finally participate in a World Series. And do you know what? Even this native New Englander thinks that's great. Finally, Donnie Baseball is in a World Series. And all due respect to Schneider, who I absolutely have killed on this show. I've called for his head. I've said he is over his head. I've said that he should not be a manager, that he has blown it. He's showed that he's out of his element. There are terrific managers out there. Why the hell is this guy still the manager? Blah, blah, blah. And did I mention blah, blah, blah? And here we go. John Schneider has the Blue Jays in the World Series. And you got to give credit where credit is due. I was not impressed with them when they lost to the Mariners in 2022, when they got punched in the face by the Twins in 2023, and they were in last place last year with a 74-88 record. And when they finished in last place, I said, you got to get a new manager. And they didn't. And they won 94. They improved by 20 games. 20. And are in the World Series. You got to give credit where credit is due. And we all have to do that with this Toronto Blue Jay team. And if you're acting like, oh, they're going to be just a punching bag for the Los Angeles Dodgers, I'm not buying it. Do I think the Dodgers have a chance? Of course I do. I think it's going to be a really good World Series. I do. I don't think either one is going to sweep. And I don't think either one has complete control. And maybe we'll get a 7-game one, which is going to bring us to today's trivia question. And it goes back to Blue Jays in the World Series. What 2 Toronto pitchers were credited with 2 victories each in the 1992 World Series? The Blue Jays won that series. By the way, they were heavy underdogs to Atlanta. They thought they were going to steamroll them, and they wound up beating Atlanta. Well, the Blue Jays won 4 games. One pitcher won 2, another pitcher won 2, and they add up to 4. Who were the 2 pitchers who won 2 games each in the 1992 World Series, the first title in Toronto Blue Jays history? Put it right down there in the box there. Talking about the ALCS, how the Blue Jays did what the Brewers couldn't, which was turn the beat around. And for the Seattle Mariners, well, you still have never made it to the World Series. And as for Donnie Baseball, you finally have. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.